We're talking actors and directors who put on the shows.
We're talking playwrights and designers who you'll want to know.
From the very first rehearsal to the final curtain call.
We might be off Broadway, but we're talking about it all.
'Cause we're two local gals
with global pals. It's everything, everything, everything theater.
with Benita
And Ellen. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about...
Everything Theater. Hi, everybody. I'm Benita Zahn.
And I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And this is so much fun to look. It's always fun doing the show and getting to hang with Ellen. But I'm particularly excited about this program because our guest is Jack Mastrianni. Now, he's Albany born and bred. He's a former Park Playhouse kid. And I had the good fortune of being on stage with him in 2017 when we did Ragtime. Now, Jack was ensemble, and I was Emma Goldman. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he and I even swapped a mic pack at one point because we had, right? Because
Correct.
there were just so many mics and the cast was so big. But the whole point to this is that there are a lot of young talent in the ensemble. And while all of them really were great, Jack stands out. Always knew where to be, what to be, who he was in the show. No muss, no fuss, no, gee, I'm a teenager. No, Jack's a pro. In fact, Jack started acting at 9. He made his Broadway debut in A Christmas Story at 13. And hello, Jack Mastrianni, Albany's own marvelous young man.
Hello, Benita and Ellen. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. Can't wait.
Well, I'm going to start with the very latest. You're out performing now in the first remake of the Fantasticks.
Correct. So this is a completely reimagined production on the beloved tale. A few different changes to the original production, but mainly Louisa is now Louis. And this is a love story between not a boy and a girl, but two boys. So very, very timely. We're having the best time with it.
And let me jump in. And it's not the fathers, it's the mothers.
The mother.
Correct.
And I love,
So, Jack,
what a lovely LGBTQ story of two mothers like forcing their two sons to get together. That's such not a story that we hear. That's lovely.
Absolutely. Totally.
how much of the music has remained the same? Are the lyrics the same? Try to remember the kind of September, take away the golden moonbeams, tinsel sky. I was in the show.
Yes, you were with Richard J.
Yes, we can get to that. I was the mute, and we started across the top of a black box, and I come down on a ladder, and my friends all roared because it really started with my behind. So, how is it that you came to be in this production, Jack?
It was actually a pretty quick rehearsal process or audition process. So over the summer, my manager, John Mayer Jr., sent me a breakdown and an audition appointment. It was just one self-tape with Much More, the song, and one scene. No Zoom callback, no in-person callback, just one initial tape. A few months go by, don't hear anything, kind of moved on to a few other projects, was looking for some other stuff in the fall. Then while I'm on vacation with my family towards Labor Day, I got an availability check. Is Jack still interested and available in the project? Yes, and yes, hard yes. And then the next week I got an offer. So it was very quick, very painless. And I was always super excited about this new version. So I'm really, really happy it just came into my path.
Goes to show you never know in this business, right? Like something from months ago comes back.
Right. Yeah, totally. It was so odd because when you're lucky to be getting auditions consistently, which sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not, just depending on the season, the month, and sometimes in the summer especially it can slow down. I just kept on grinding and looking for a few other opportunities in the fall, and this one came back and I was like, absolutely. And this is my first time in California too, which I love it out here. I see why people move here and never move back to the East Coast. It'll always be New York or nowhere for sure. I am New York forever, but it's tempting out here in Palm Springs, especially. Everyone's just, on a different speed of life, and it's very nice.
It's lovely out in Palm Springs. It's CV Rep, right?
Yep, Coachella Valley.
And you're extended now to the 19th of November?
Yes. So we were originally till the end of this weekend, but at the beginning of our run, we extended a whole nother week because it has such a demand, which has been really, really special. So I'm here for just about another 10 days. But all in all, 2-week rehearsal process, 3-week run. So very, very quick in the broad span. Like I'm only here for a little over 5 weeks, and it's going so quickly. I'm already mourning it. I'm already mourning the weather and the sunsets, and yeah.
Is there any talk about taking this to the East Coast?
So this is the West Coast premiere, but it's not the first. This is the second production of this. It originated last spring in Detroit. And that was the first time it was done with Tom Jones still involved. But yeah, so this is the first time it's out here. I think it definitely has legs for a few other productions. Can't confirm anything, nor do I really know much, but I would love to do it elsewhere or in New York or out of New York. But back to what you were saying originally, it's interesting how much the show is the same from the original. While I mean the overall structure is very different character-wise. Tom, there are a few different rewrites and words that we used in 1960 that we don't use in 2023. But as far as the story itself, it's almost identical in that it's no longer there was a boy, there was a girl, there was a boy, there was a boy. And we talked about in a rehearsal process, especially, it's not the gay Fantasticks. It's not just the story with two gay people. It happens to be a boy, and yes, that's gay, but it's more aesthetically, we're talking about these two people who are holistically these two sets of archetypes who fall in love. And we're focusing on the aesthetic of these are the two people and how they come to be in their first love, and not the fact that it's anything different from our social norms, which I really appreciated.
Much More was the
Much More.
Louisa.
Yeah.
That's your song.
That's my song. Yeah, and also keys wise, so musically, because now this is a boy in the soprano one part, it's crazy how much has stayed the same, because it actually sits, because it is a soprano one and it sits higher in a female voice, it sits very comfortably as written down the octave for a tenor. So almost everything has stayed the same and sits very comfortably for me. Like I sing like to F's and G's, which now is very normal for tenors, where now we're going to like the A's and the B flats and the Ben Platts of the world. But there's one song, the duet at the end, They Were You, that was brought up, I think, like a third, just because it is the two boys. But it's interesting how much has stayed the same. And then in like the 4-part songs with the mothers, my mother, who's now Bessie May, sings a lot of the Louisa parts in those 4 parts. So it's the parallels are so crazy. And my mother, Lisa Vroman, who's Broadway royalty, she has played Louisa several times. So it's only natural to now be Louis's mother.
And there's something so timeless about the Fantasticks too. That was one that as a young girl, I saw a production, and like I would sing much more in my bedroom, like at night when I'm supposed to be going to bed, trying to hit all those high notes that I couldn't quite hit. And like, there's just such a beautiful story. It really is, of just this young love, and especially this character, Louis, like which is wanting so much out of life, and that young energy it's just a lovely story. You can see why it
Absolutely.
ran
And
for 42 years off Broadway.
yeah, of course, because it is so timeless. And like you can also, both from on stage and in the audience, you grow with the show. Each time you see it, no matter where you are in your life, you can take something from it. And then also you can age through the show as an actor. Like you can be, like in the original, you can be the boy to the boy's father to El Gallo, like in over the course of like 40 years, which people have done. But like even just this past year, I spent a lot of time doing Beautiful, the Carole King musical, at a few different theaters across the country. So to come do this after doing that for so long, it's Beautiful is an amazing show with such a good book through Carole's life. But to do something so different, so classic musical theater, golden age. Like the star is the book and the story, it's simplicity at its finest, the power in that simplicity, that we're literally just like, it's a boy and a boy on stage and diving into what that humanism is in those relationships. It's so refreshing after doing a huge musical that was written only a few years ago.
Your set too, right, is very simplistic.
I'm sorry, Ellen.
Oh, I was gonna say your set is also very simplistic, right? Of just like a trunk and a curtain, right?
Yep. It's the classic Fantasticks, like a few platforms, the curtain. One difference from the original, usually the mute has a bat for the wall, and we mime that wall between the two houses. Now we're diving into light and experimenting with light. So now there's a huge beam and a light that comes through, which is really cool. So that was a little twist on the original.
You also this year you blessedly had a very busy year, so you qualified for healthcare through equity. Not a
Yes.
question. But you also did Becomes a Woman,
Yes.
which was a world premiere.
Yes.
Going to do what a journalist shouldn't. I'm going to ask a two-part question. Doing a world premiere, so there's no body but yours to bring to it. What's that like?
It's really exciting. That I look back at January and February, March as such a happy fantasy time that I knew would go by way too quickly. But so it was at the Mint Theater Company at New York City Center, and the Mint's whole mission, and they've been in New York for decades, is to shine light on these plays that are long forgotten, that never got their time, that never saw the spotlight. Betty was the author of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, and she was world famous for that book because it's brilliant. But she, as a woman in her time, was not taken seriously as a playwright. So this play never got the accolades or attention it really deserves. So to bring her work to New York and to get the response that we got was just such a pleasure. An amazing group. Amazing female director Britt Burke, who is going to be a Tony Oscar winner one day. Discovering it with her and diving into all the different things. Also, the challenges of a new work with a playwright who's not with you in the room. That whole experience and learning from that, because usually with a new play, as you're working with it, there are rewrites, there are cuts, there are new scenes, but we didn't have those options, So we, with her estate, we were able to do some work through the preview process, but that was a really unique experience that I would love to bring to Broadway one day. Maybe, we'll see. Fingers crossed. That's one of those that definitely deserves to do so.
You were also at Capitol Rep in
Yes.
a show that I adore, but we know the players. You did The True.
I did The True, yes, and that was last spring of 2022.
Right. And some of that, and I unfortunately didn't get to see that. I was, as Ellen knows, when we're in shows, we can't get to see each other, so we click likes, right, and say break legs. But The True is somewhat based on former Mayor Erastus Corning and his relationship with Polly Noonan and her granddaughter, Kirsten Gillibrand, referred to as Tina. And there's one glaring non-truth in that. Apparently, Polly never sewed. It was
Correct.
A construct for the show.
Which Senator Gillibrand told us when she came to see it, which was so wild to have her in the audience. And we had to know, because usually you don't want to know when people like that are at the show, because that can totally throw you off. But because she had been there and she was going to be announced, we knew in advance. We got to meet her after. She was so incredibly gracious. And like to see her grandmother's life on stage so publicly in front of the 350 people there that afternoon. She was so incredibly gracious, but that was the first thing she said. Grandma did not sew, but she really did have the mouth she had written in the dialogue.
I knew her.
So funny.
But she was, if she took you under her wing, I was blessed. She was very gracious, incredibly gracious.
Yes.
doing a piece like that in Albany, because it launched in New York City, I think Playwrights Horizon. What's that? What kind of a response did you get? Oh, and there was a lawsuit threatened.
I believe there was, and a few very angry emails, and that was a whole other learning experience I had with something, so close to the community, that so many people who saw the show, who knew these people as real people in time. There definitely was a little bit of a mixed response, but I would say overwhelmingly positive. Some family members of, I believe, Polly's original husband, who played by Wynn, who was Peter, his granddaughter, I believe, came to see our show.
Because Polly's son was not a fan.
Correct. He was the lawsuit, the angry emails, but Peter's grandchildren really wanted him to see it. I don't think he came, and he's also, I think he might be gone.
Who?
I know I Peter. I'm saying
so.
stuff I don't know, but and it was so, yeah, I think he's around, and they really wanted him to go, but I don't think he made it. But his grandparents or his grandchildren were really, really happy with it. One of my favorite stories. So my grandmother knew Erastus, and my grandmother now she just celebrated her 92nd birthday. She lives in a nursing home. Every day is a gift. She has her good days. She has her bad days. She's struggling with a whole bunch of things. But back then she was a little bit more active cognitively. And one of my first days in Albany, I came to her room and I said, "Grandma, I'm doing this play all about Erastus Corning." She immediately lit up. She knew exactly what I was talking about, and without even prompting her. So this show is about the relationship with Polly Noonan. She asked me, "And is he still with that woman?" And that's all I needed to know every woman in Albany on 13 Lenox knew everyone's business. It was definitely not a secret, but the parallels of the Mastrianni family in Albany with the story itself, the committee men that come to visit the house, they take care of their own, the $5 bills in the mailboxes, and everything that came to be. So much of what I knew as Albany as a kid was because of Erastus's reign and his decisions benefiting his friends and his pockets. And it was really, really eye-opening. But that was a really, really great time with Maggie and everyone at Capital Rep.
What a 18 month run you've had. We're going to lose you a little earlier than normal because you've got a fight call tonight. And I think most people who subscribe, listen to us, know what that is. And the bottom line is it keeps everybody safe. So Ellen's got a series of questions just for you, Jack.
Great.
Yes, this is our close-up segment. It's just some rapid-fire questions all for you. So are you ready for your close-up, Jack?
Oh, I'm so ready. I'm nervous, but let's do it.
What was the moment in your life when you just knew, I have to do theater?
When I was in first grade, I believe January, not my birthday, not January 7th, but that second week of January, I just moved to my new house and I saw the premiere of High School Musical on Disney Channel. And I saw that boys could do sports, but also do theater and sing and dance. And I thought that I definitely want to try that. And then very quickly I moved into voice lessons and doing shows. And, you're bit by the bug and you never look back.
What did your parents think when you said, I'm going to go pursue that?
So supportive. Yeah. I was really lucky that it was never a question of, do you want to do this as a career or as an extracurricular in high school, turning to profession, because I worked professionally a lot as a kid too. I was really blessed in that way that my parents always supported me no matter what decision I wanted to make, and I led with that. It was never forced either way. I really had the driving seat and they just supported me.
What's a play that you've either seen or just read or been part of that had a huge impact on your life?
Oh, that's the $1 million question. Okay, I'm gonna cheat a little bit. All 4 plays I did in high school were some of the happiest memories I will ever carry with me. I also learned so much about the craft itself, but I did Damn Yankees, Oliver. I played Dodger. I played Danny in Grease. And then I played the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. And those 4 years, on and off of working professionally in New York as well as home, I had this safe space with all my friends who also played lacrosse and baseball and swimming, who did the school play those 2 months out of the year. And some of those people are still some of my best friends to this day. But and doing, especially because I worked as a kid so young, those experiences of doing theater extracurricularly because you want to be there, because you want to do it, because you want to learn. That was some of the best. Yeah.
Which high school was
Which
that?
high school, Jack?
Bethlehem High School. Thank you. Yeah. Mr.
And
Yera, Mrs. Dashu, Mr. Dashu. Yep.
and what's on the bucket list? What are some things that some roles you really want to do?
Oh, so many things. Here, can I pull out a list? I think I have a list on my computer actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I'm nervous. I'd love to originate anytime I get the opportunity to do like a reading in the city and learn who a character is and why they want what they want is so cool, just to build from the ground floor up. The biggest one is probably Elder Price in the Book of Mormon. I've been in and out of that show auditioning for many, many years. So I really hope one day the stars align and I get to do that somewhere. I would love to be King George in Hamilton. I think I got a little time to age into that. Who else in here? I would love to play Damien in Mean Girls once that hits the regional market, which I think that has a whole nother life because it's touring now. The musical is a movie, a feature film now that will come out in a few months.
What's a blooper that you've had on stage? We like to ask this sometimes for fun.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, just last week, our final preview, which is, of course, when you want it to happen, and then it'll never happen again, right before opening night. But of course, when all the critics are there, as Louis, I have my grandmother's necklace, which I have to give to El Gallo as a token. 30 seconds before I come on stage, I realize I don't have it. So I say, I think I can either go on without it and figure it out, or I can just go grab it. And I'm like, heck, let's just go grab it. Run down to the dressing room, grab it, come up the stairs. My song starts, my reprise of Much More starts as I'm going up the stairs. My mic's on. So hearsay from what I hear in the audience, you just hear me panting, breathing, step, 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 step. Then casually go on stage. I like to swim in the clear. And you're like, well, you know, it's never going to happen again. And it is what it is.
Those happen.
Of course.
And do you know what's coming up next, or is this once this wraps up, you're kind of back to the auditions?
Yes. So actually, and I can say this because I just signed my contract. So right after this, on the 20th, so after next week, I'm headed back to Agunquit, Maine, where I did Beautiful, and I'm going to be in the ensemble of The Sound of Music for their holiday run up there. Super quick. I'm actually joining them 1 week late. They start this coming week. But because I'm male ensemble, there's not a whole lot to do. I think everything I sing is goodbye at the party scene. So I'll be up there for a week of rehearsal and then 3 weeks of performances into the holidays. So very excited for that.
Excellent. Well, it has been lovely speaking with you, Jack.
Thank you
And
so
before
much
we
for
let you
having
go,
me.
Yeah, delighted. You referenced early Richard J. Alexander, who has produced Kristen Chenoweth and Barbara's and a host of other of their cabaret. Yeah, basically, it's cabaret, one-woman shows, and it's somebody I went to college with whom you're dear friends, and he also worked with Cameron McIntosh, and so you're in good company.
Yes,
And,
yes.
It's just that small world.
Yep.
And Jack, one of my favorite lines in any show is Louisa's line. And she says, "Please, God, please, don't let me be normal."
And and while we're at it, that is a rewrite because the estate and the creatives were afraid that "Don't Let Me Be Normal" would be construed as "Don't let me be straight."
I wonder.
So that's one-on-one, and there's not many, but in the context of now this new version, there are some things that could be strewed. So I say, please God, please let me be someone special. Bling.
There it is.
And on that note,
Yeah.
it's the way it should have been the first time. Jack Mastrianni, what a delight spending a little time with you. It's not like having a coffee, but it's not bad. All best.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. We just scratched the surface. I wish we could talk for like 3 hours, but thank you
We'll have you
so much
back.
for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Really, really appreciate it.
And for all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And I'm Benita Zahn. Take care. Be well.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everything Theater podcast. Special thanks goes out to Alice Grinling for our photography and Justin Friello for composing our amazing theme song. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to share your thoughts or what's going on in your theater community, you can reach out to us on social media or through our email at everythingtheaterpodcast@gmail.com. Till next time, it's everything.